What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here with your second stimulus check update. And in this video, we're going to hear from the Supreme Court and also the second stimulus check update regarding the $1,200 stimulus check. What is going on with that? And a new state that is passing stimulus to their residents, stimulus money right now. But first, don't forget to give this video a like down below. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on new videos. It's completely free to do so. Me and my wife do all the research for you every single day so we can bring you the news in a quick, concise video. Okay, first of all, you know that big breaking news story that the state of Texas, and we had dozens of other states actually join in with them to try to overturn the swing states that Joe Biden won? Well, the Supreme Court just rejected that.
Jessica Schneider is out front in Washington. And Jessica, look, they put this out on a Friday night. They didn't mince words and they didn't waste time. What are you learning about the court's decision here and what happens next?
Yeah, Aaron, this is it. Game over for what was a long shot lawsuit anyway. It's a lawsuit, like you said, that gained support from more than 100 Republicans in Congress, nearly 24 Republican attorneys general. But the justices tonight have spoken for the second time this week, shutting down these Republican efforts to stop Joe Biden from becoming president. So the Supreme Court putting it this way in this one-page order tonight: Texas has no right to even file this lawsuit at the high court because Texas has no right to legally challenge how another state conducts its elections. And in this case, of course, Texas was challenging the election procedures for 4 crucial battleground states. And in this order, 2 of the most conservative justices, Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas, they said that they did believe the Supreme Court should have let Texas at least file the case. But then these 2 justices said that even if that had happened, they too would have rejected it. So this is a complete rejection of the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, his efforts to stop the electors in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, stop them from voting for Joe Biden when they meet on Monday. They cannot stop them at this point. So this was a short order, just 1 page and just a few sentences. But Aaron, this is a major defeat for Republicans tonight. And of course, it's a victory to all those states and officials who blasted this effort by Texas. In fact, officials in Pennsylvania, they called it a cacophony of bogus claims that called for a seditious abuse of the judicial process. That was in their court filing. And tonight, the Supreme Court really seeming to agree when they issued this order that capped a week of 2 Supreme Court rejections of Republican efforts. And of course, Aaron, we have seen repeated cases where they have shut down Republican efforts all over the country by state and federal judges. Now we're seeing it twice in 1 week from the Supreme Court, Aaron.
It's so crazy that the United States is still so divided. A lot of my Republican friends, they don't believe that Trump has lost and that he's still got a really good chance and that he's actually won. And then my Democrat friends say they can't even believe this is still being questioned. And we still have a very divided United States. It just shows how differently the different sides of people think. And that's what happens with Congress a lot of times too. And it's where we get these Republicans that don't want to spend money for stimulus, that we need to be fiscally responsible. And then we get these Democrats that want to spend like all the money in the world and they can't come to a middle ground agreement. One thing that we are agreeing on is we're seeing record number of cases and deaths from this pandemic almost every single day and seeing shutdowns across the United States. We're seeing shutdowns, partial shutdowns, and business shutdowns across the United States. A lot of schools are actually making their students go online only. Los Angeles just had record cases for several days in a row. Pennsylvania's governor has banned indoor dining, gyms under the new virus order. Wyoming has a new mask mandate backed by the Republicans, which is kind of shocking because most Republicans are against masks. And New York Governor Andrew Cuomo suspends indoor dining in New York City and is backed by the mayor. We're starting to see this all across the country, more and more restrictions on not only people, but businesses across the United States. On the second stimulus check negotiations, the 2 biggest problems that is preventing the sides from getting a deal, at least yet, is 1, the hundreds of billions of dollars that the Democrats want for states and cities. That's a very Democratic thing, and the Republicans don't like it at all. A lot of the Republicans don't want to spend that amount of money, especially on states and cities. that they call badly run Democratic states. Some of that money from states and cities does come back to you guys in the form of rent assistance and these stimulus checks that these state and local cities are passing out. But that's just a portion of it. The Republicans don't want to give hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars more because they already got hundreds of billions of dollars from the first stimulus package and previous stimulus packages. And a lot of these states still have billions of dollars sitting around. Some of these states have to use this money on the rent assistance and the stimulus checks to get this money out to their residents before the end of the year. Not all the money expires at the end of the year, but we're going to be seeing a lot more state and local stimulus packages and rent assistance being pushed out before the end of the year. I'll have one for you at the end of this video. But that state and local money for cities and also the liability protections for businesses that Mitch McConnell is really pushing for, even though we haven't really seen that many lawsuits related to the virus yet. I mean, there's a few, but there's really not that many going around, not like what you would have expected when this pandemic started and we started to hear about, thousands and thousands of people dying. So it's really not as bad as they say, but Mitch McConnell is insisting that that be in the bill. Let's hear from U.S. House Representative Katie Porter on her view of these liability protections and Mitch McConnell.
Explain what you mean by corruption in real time.
Absolutely. What we're dealing with here is somebody who is trying to put the imaginary need of big corporate donors ahead of the very real need of the American people. And you hear this in Senator McConnell's own words. He says, well, there might be an epidemic of lawsuits. But let's be clear, that is not currently a problem. There's only a handful of COVID liability lawsuits in the country. In fact, tort lawsuits are down this year as compared to last year. What there is an epidemic of in this country is hunger, is homelessness, housing insecurity, and that's what we need to be focusing on right now.
When you're looking at all that is out there, that is on the line, I'm wondering, where's the urgency in Congress? Why do we keep hearing talking and talking and talking and not voting? Why haven't we seen a bill come to the floor yet?
Well, look, Katie, Democrats have voted. The House has voted. We voted back in June or July for the HEROES package, and we've continued to want to negotiate, and we've stayed in session and tried to reach a compromise. And I want to be clear. Many Republicans are willing to compromise. Many Senate Republicans are willing to compromise. This isn't about the dollar figure of relief. We all understand that we could do a little bit less now and then do the rest to come. This is about Senator McConnell holding out, trying to basically give a license to kill to big corporations that engage in reckless behavior to endanger workers and employees and Americans. So we all, Republicans and Democrats, agree there's a potential to move forward here to continue those programs if he will drop this ridiculous and I think corrupt attempt to try to put these imaginary needs of big corporations ahead of the needs of the American people, which are very, very real, and as you point out, are extremely urgent.
Now Katie Porter is going to tell us about how other countries are actually receiving way more stimulus than the United States. I've talked about this in the past, how the United States has spent less than half of the average of other first world countries. And the U.S. is expecting us to close down, as we're seeing right now, shutdowns and close downs and partial lockdowns across the United States. But yet they're not going to pay people to not work as they're forcing us to shut down.
We're asking people to stay at home because we don't want the virus to spread, but we're giving people no ability to stay home and to maintain their livelihoods. Don't work, but we're not going to help you even though you're not working. This is not happening in Europe. In Europe, they're making sure that people do have the ability to stay home. Why are we functionally this way? Why can't we support people in the middle of a crisis?
Well, for me, I think this really boils down to a question about who do representatives in government answer to? We have a campaign finance system, unlike anything seen in Europe. So the idea that the interests of businesses or big corporations would come in front of the interests and needs of the American people, it is unfathomable in most countries in this world, but so is our campaign finance system. That's why I don't take corporate PAC money. It's why I don't take contributions from lobbyists, because I think I'm supposed to work on behalf of the American people. And that means making sure that we have a strong, healthy economy, which means giving Americans disaster relief payments so they can put food on the table, so they can keep a roof over their head during this time and be ready to go back to work when it's safe to do so.
Bernie Sanders from the Democrats and the new hero of the day from the Republican side, Senator Josh Hawley, have introduced a bill and an amendment for $1,200 stimulus checks and are threatening to block the government shutdown bill, where the government will shut down on the 18th of December, this coming Friday, that if there is not $1,200 stimulus checks either passed in the government shutdown, the stimulus bill by that week, or a standalone stimulus check, that they will gather up enough support in the Senate to block a government shutdown bill. The government will shut down, and that will force them to stay there to pass a stimulus check before the government shutdown, before they will allow it to actually go through and to fund the government. So basically, they're saying stimulus checks or shutdown. I think it's really good news that Senator Josh Hawley and Bernie Sanders, but two different guys from two different sides, two different walks of life. I mean, they're completely different in age, can come together and try to help the American people. And they're saying, hey, basically, if we don't pass a stimulus check by next week of $1,200, not $600, $1,200, we're going to shut the government down, and then we're going to stay here until there is a $1,200 stimulus check passed. I actually think that there's a couple things that could happen. One, they could end up passing this $1,200 stimulus check without a stimulus package. Now, remember, a stimulus package is better because there's all sorts of different things in there that helps people. The unemployment money, the stimulus check money, the money for mortgage and rental assistance. Remember, there's $25 billion in there for rent assistance, which might mean an extra $1,000 or $2,000 in your pocket for rent assistance, depending on how they distribute it. I will be walking you through how to get that. There's billions of dollars in there for student loan forgiveness, which again will help out many more millions of Americans. There's money for food in there for WIC, SNAP, and other food programs that might be brand new that you might be able to apply for. So the stimulus pack, and there's money for state and local cities, which do end up giving back some of that money to their residents in the form of state and rental local assistance and rent assistance. A lot of that money does come back. So the stimulus package is better. But honestly, they could pass this standalone bill just for the stimulus checks, which would provide some relief. It does provide some relief for businesses too, because people take this money and they go out and they spend it on food, they spend it on groceries, they spend it on their rent, they spend it on their car payment, they spend it on their bills, which goes to businesses. Businesses use that to pay their employees, which goes back to the people, and it goes into the economy, and it just helps out the entire cycle that is struggling right now. So one, we could see this bill just for $1,200 stimulus checks. Two, we could see a stimulus package with the $1,200 stimulus check amendment on it. In that case, I would expect a $300 unemployment for the 16 weeks or 16, 18 weeks, depending on what they decide on, 4 months of unemployment at $300 per week, plus the $1,200 stimulus check. Or we could see Mitch McConnell's proposal, which actually isn't a bad idea. Well, the one of his proposals, where he says he wants to drop the liability protections that the Republicans want so bad and drop the state and local billions, hundreds of billions of dollars that the Democrats want. Drop those two biggest contention points, let them fall off, and then pass the stimulus package with everything else in it, because we're basically taking the two main things that they are fighting the most about, pushing those to the side and saying, hey, we'll do that after the holidays. We'll work on that on the January stimulus package. Joe Biden has said there is more stimulus packages to come in January and February, and this December stimulus package is just a down payment. Mitch McConnell's actually taking that to heart. Remember, he's a Republican. He's on the other side, but we know he has a very good working relationship with Mitch McConnell, and Joe Biden have a great working relationship. They've worked together for decades. So Mitch McConnell's kind of seeing that ahead of time, saying, well, we know there's going to be more packages coming. So let's drop these two things that we can't agree on right now, pass this stimulus package in this upcoming week, and provide the stimulus checks and the smaller stimulus package with unemployment, and just get rid of the money for the states and cities and the liability protections. Let me bring you guys a new state that is helping with thousands of dollars of rent assistance or stimulus money for their residents right now. The state of Missouri has new rent assistance money for Missourians who has fallen behind in rent. They actually have $15 million that will go towards rent assistance in arrears program. They will actually help you out for your rent going all the way back to April 1st. A one-time payment of up to 6 months of arrears can be made to the landlord on the tenant's behalf. So again, 6 months of rent assistance in Missouri. I mean, if your rent's $1,000 a month and they pay 6 months of it, that's literally $6,000 in rent assistance money that you can claim if you're from Missouri. I will be bringing you more states and cities like this every single day, so make sure to subscribe with the bell icon on. We have new videos coming out at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and share this video so others like you will know about these programs. You can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus check videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.